Well, hello everyone. It's Dylan Fabrizio, and we're going to do another Revelation lesson. We're in chapter 13 today, and one of the focuses of this lesson is going to be the numbers 666 and the mark of the beast, which is a very mysterious and puzzling thing about the book of Revelation that to this day um, we don't really have completely figured out, but hopefully I'll give you some more insight into this. As we begin, I want to show a video, so check this out and then we'll get into reading the lesson.
Microchips implanted in human bodies could transform the way we tackle many everyday tasks. Some workers in Sweden are already developing and volunteering to have chips injected into their hands. The technology can make some tasks easier and reduce the amount of personal items employees need to carry. John Blackstone looks at the controversial trend and how it could put your privacy at risk.
In a Stockholm business complex, employees gain access not with key cards, but with a wave of a hand.
This is something that you can use just like a key badge.
At a recent tech conference, Hannes Sjöblad explained how a microchip implanted in his hand makes his life easier. It replaces all the keys and cards that used to clutter his pockets.
I use this many times a day, for example, to unlock my smartphone, to open the door to my office.
Sjöblad calls himself a biohacker.
We biohackers, we think that the human body is a good start, but there is certainly room for improvement.
The first step in that improvement is getting a microchip about the size of a grain of rice slipped under the skin. Suddenly, the touch of a hand is enough to tell the office printer, this is an authorized user.
It felt pretty scary, but at the same time it felt very modern.
The microchips are radio frequency identification tags, the same technology widely used in things like key cards. The chips have been implanted in animals for years to help identify lost pets. Now the technology is moving to humans. A tech startup called Dangerous Things has sold tens of thousands of implant kits for humans, some to tech companies in Europe. Sjöblad even organizes implant parties where people can bond over getting chipped together.
I love gadgets, and now I kind of feel like I'm a gadget myself.
Even a car door can be tweaked to open with a touch, but each touch leaves a digital footprint, and that can compromise privacy. It also seems to be one thing if retailers can track me on my phone to see if they can get me to buy some socks or underwear. It's a different thing if my employer can see where I am, see what I'm doing when I'm off the job.
This is serious stuff. We're talking about a nonstop potential connection to my body. I can't turn it off. I can't put it away. It's in me. That's a big problem.
Even a dedicated biohacker has concerns.
It's very easy to hack a chip implant. So my advice is don't put your life secrets on a chip implant.
Somebody put an implant inside me. I found it this morning.
Back in 2004, the Manchurian Candidate suggested a future where humans are chipped and controlled. We have been warned.
It's about educating the people and giving every person the tools, not only how to use the technology, but more importantly, when it's being used against you.
But biohackers also predict the next generation of chips will save lives by monitoring health and fitness. For now, being chipped means never having to say you're sorry you forgot your key card. For CBS This Morning, John Blackstone, San Francisco.
I'm fascinated by this. I've always thought it was the future, that it would carry your medical records, that it could track your fitness, that
you could buy your groceries with it.
Right, like an Apple Pay or something.
I'm all in.
Yeah.
I'm skeptical. I'm scared of becoming a cyborg, but if you guys go first, I'll join you.
Okay, so what do you think? Is that something that you would be interested in, injecting a chip into your hand? As you can see or predict, this subject kind of gets into the realm of Revelation chapter 13. Seems like a crazy thing to be doing, but a very interesting video. In fact, that was from a couple of years ago. So there's lots of people who have been doing this for a few years now. Let's go ahead and read Revelation chapter 13. So John is in the heavenly realm here, and he's still having this vision. And this vision is almost even more terrifying than the other visions he's already had. So let's go ahead and read. Then I saw a beast with 10 horns and 7 heads rising out of the sea. There were 10 royal crowns on its horns and blasphemous names on its head. The beast I saw was like a leopard, with the feet of a bear and the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave the beast his power and his throne and great authority. And one of the heads of the beast appeared to be mortally wounded, but the mortal wound was healed, and the whole world marveled and followed the beast. They worshipped the dragon who had given authority to the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast, and who can wage war against it?" The beast was given a mouth to speak arrogant and blasphemous words, and authority to act for 42 months. And the beast opened its mouth to speak blasphemies against God, and to slander his name and his tabernacle, those who dwell in heaven. So obviously, this is a terrifying thing that John is seeing here in the heavenly throne room, or from outside of the heavenly throne room. And we have to ask ourselves, is this all symbolic? Did he literally see an actual literal event that will take place in the future? Or does this mean something or have relevance to something that was happening in his day and time? And I think those are all important questions to answer. I think the answer, we could probably have a valid answer for all of those questions. The most immediate one being, in John's day, the Roman Empire was heavily persecuting Christians. This is a well-known fact. And to say that the beast was Rome, and then it had 7 heads, or 7 hills in Rome, or 10 horns, not exactly sure the best way to understand what the 10 horns mean, but the 7 heads could represent the 7 hills of Rome. And this was a terrible beast that could really deceive the world. One of the beasts is wounded, and then the whole world marveled, and they worship the dragon because it gave authority to this beast. And so, it's interesting. It's hard to say that this is exactly referring to Rome, but I think someone who was reading it in the original day, maybe they would have associated it with Rome or the Roman Empire or one of the Roman emperors who was evil and persecuted Christians. But we don't know for certain this is what John is saying. I mean, there's a good argument for that. But it's quite interesting that this beast almost is like dead and then comes back to life. And then people worship the dragon, which is a very terrible thing. So here's a picture. Someone's tried to illustrate what John saw. I like the Triceratops head that they threw in there. Pretty interesting. A terrifying looking beast coming out of the sea. But let's keep reading in verse 7. The beast was permitted to wage war against the saints and to conquer them. And it was given authority over every tribe and people and tongue and nation, and all who dwell on the earth will worship the beast, all whose names have not been written from the foundation of the world in the book of life, belonging to the Lamb who was slain. He who has an ear, let him hear. If anyone is destined for captivity, into captivity he will go. If anyone is to die by the sword he must be killed. Here is a call for the perseverance and faith of the saints. So here we have a quote from Jeremiah 15. So we have John alluding back or giving a Old Testament reference to this concept of what is happening here. The idea of exile, that John was living on an island, exiled because of his Christianity. That this, going back to Jeremiah chapter 15, anyone who's destined for captivity, into captivity he will go. Anyone to die by the sword he must be killed. There's lots of debate on what this means. Does this mean that Christians will be persecuted and killed? Does this mean that there's going to be a rapture and Christians will not be harmed before this event? Or does this mean that there will be suffering in the last days by Christians? It's hard to say, but he is using the exile or exilic language here to communicate the points of this chapter, that bad things or terrible, difficult things are happening during that day. So the beast was permitted to wage war against the saints, to conquer them, and it says that all the people on earth will be worshiping this beast, except those whose name isn't written in who have not been written in the book of life. Let's keep reading though here. So I actually want to show you this picture. When I think about this, I think about in the time of the exile, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they're all living in a foreign land, and they were commanded to worship the golden statue. Would have been a massive golden statue representing Babylon, representing King Nebuchadnezzar, and they refused to bow down to it. So I think about these four guys not bowing down in a land of people where everyone is worshiping this image or this beastly-like symbol. So let's keep going in verse 11. Then I saw another beast rising out of the earth. This beast had 2 horns like a lamb, but spoke like a dragon. And this beast exercised all the authority of the first beast, and caused the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast, whose mortal wound had been healed. And the second beast performed great signs to cause even fire from heaven to come down to the earth in the presence of the people. Because of the signs it was given to perform on behalf of the first beast, it deceived those who dwell on the earth, telling them to make an image to the beast that had been wounded by the sword and yet had lived. The second beast was permitted to give breath to the image of the first beast, so that the image could speak and cause all who refused to worship it to be killed. So here we have quite the miraculous event, and it seems like a evil or dark miraculous event where a second beast comes, and it is also giving signs and has the ability to deceive, and it gives the second beast gives life and breath to the image of the first beast, and the image could speak, and it says that it could speak and cause all who refuse to worship it to be killed. So it had a great power. These 2 beasts had great and terrifying power, and they were being worshipped. An image was being worshipped. It's almost terrifying to think about. Here's a picture. Someone's tried to illustrate this scene that we just read here. Very dark art here. And I want to keep reading in verse 16. It says, And the second beast required all people, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their forehead, so that no one could buy or sell unless he had the mark, the name of the beast, or the number of its name. Here is a call for wisdom. Let the one who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and that number is 666. So here the beast, it seems to be forming a one world religion. That's a common thing you might hear in the book of Revelation. Or it seems to be forming a one world government or a one world monetary system, that everyone must receive this mark on their right hand or on their forehead, to the point that if you don't have this, you can't buy or sell unless you have the mark. And it's the name of the beast and the number of its name. And then John says a very peculiar thing. It says, let the one who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it's the number of a man, 666. So 666 is the number of a man that can be calculated. That's something that's very important when understanding this passage. And there have been many early church fathers after the time this was written that have gone on to try to calculate this number. And there have been some guesses. There's ancient quotes of church fathers trying to guess what this name was, just simply based on calculations of the Greek alphabet into numbers. This is also done in Hebrew as well, which is called gematria. And there's been lots of interesting things surrounding the number 666. But one major point here is that it's the number of a man. And perhaps we can make the argument that it was the number of a man back in the day when John's writing this, but it could have meaning in our day or throughout all of history. So I want to show you a couple examples, maybe that are more relevant to our day. But here's a few from ancient times. First of all, I want to read from 1 Kings 10. We have this example of the weight of the gold that Solomon received yearly was 666 talents. So this number represents the number of a man. He has great wealth. His yearly number of gold was 666 talents. Pretty interesting. If you want to take it back to John's day, Many have said that this number 666 is the number of the man, Caesar, or Nero Caesar. And you would have to use the form of Caesar or Kaiser Neron, translated from the Hebrew, and you would use each letter to represent a certain number. And it can be easily calculated, just like our alphabet can be put into numerical form. They would have done the same thing with their language in Hebrew. Of course, the book of Revelation is written in Greek, and so some would say that, well, you have to do this with the Greek language, and others would say, well, John wrote in Greek, but he really thought in Hebrew or Aramaic. And so I think, we have to say there's room for different interpretations on the meaning of 666. But I want to show you a couple things that are quite interesting. So here's a picture of the first Apple, microprocessor or microchip, keyboard, CPU, if you will. And this was sold in 1977. I believe the first was sold on April 11th, 1977. And it was sold for $666.66. But of course, when you look at that Apple symbol, I think there's something to it. We don't know what Adam and Eve ate in the Garden of Eden. We don't know if it was an apple or not. But they certainly took a bite out of a fruit. And of course, it says bite into an apple. And it almost is like that concept of biting in the apple. Take a bite out of sin. Not to say that Apple is a sinful company, or if you have an iPhone or a Mac computer or anything Apple, that means it's the mark of the beast. But you see the type that it is, or the almost in your face. You can't live without one of our computers. If you don't have one of our computers or one of our pieces of software or whatever, then it's almost like you have no life at all. And so I see that Apple symbol, and I almost see it as a symbol of defiance, even though it is a major part of our culture today, worldwide. Here's another example from ancient times, though. If you look at the 350 AD manuscript of Revelation, the Greek number there, 666, at the bottom of the screen is written as so. But at the top in Arabic, you have the name of Allah. So what you would have to do is do a little bit of switching around of symbols. And some would say that the name of Allah, the Aramaic name for the God Allah of a different religion, would be this word, 666, or the same character symbols for 666. And I think that this is quite a compelling and interesting argument. And maybe I would say to this is a type of 666, or an Antichrist type of system. This, of course, would have come along about 600 to 700 years after the time of Christ, this name and this symbol. But nonetheless, when you look at the Greek language and you look at the Aramaic and you see the Greek characters for 666 or 666, and then you see the name of Allah in another language, it's very compelling that these are quite similar. And then, of course, this is a popular one that has gone around for a while. Monster Energy drink. It says Unleash the Beast. A lady made a video a few years ago that when you tip the Monster Energy drink upside down, that it's, like you're drinking the number 666 according to the Hebrew character Vav, which represents 666. I think it's maybe a bit of a stretch, but interesting, because the language on the cans of Monster Energy seem to be pretty dark, or maybe even satanic, if you will. I think you can maybe make that argument. Did the people who create this have that in mind? I don't know. It's hard to say. But of course, at the bottom of the screen there, in the O letter of Monster, there's a cross, and when you tip it upside down, it's an inverted cross. Some say that it has a satanic agenda. I would say it's an interesting thing to look at. Perhaps it's part of the beast system, Monster Energy drink. So, maybe next time you'll think before you drink one. Anyway, here's another one that came out recently. This has been around the internet lately, especially with the virus, and of course Microsoft having a patent called W2020 060606. It's a cryptocurrency using body movement to track body movement in connection of a human to a I guess, a PC device or some kind of electronic device in which humans could unlock cryptocurrency. And of course, here we see this is an actual patent, and that's the name. The number of the patent is 060606. You see at the middle left screen there that Microsoft is one of the companies who came up with this, and there's the people's names listed on there. But it says that human body activity is associated with a task provided a user that may be used in a mining process of cryptocurrency, so unlocking money. The reason why I bring this up is it sounds a lot like the concept of all people of the world being able to have access to money to buy or sell by having this mark of the beast. And so it's kind of eerie that this patent, the number is 060606, and it seems to be that this is a type of monetary unlocking or a type of system in which cryptocurrency would be an electronic device attached to a human that would unlock cryptocurrency. I mean, maybe it's a stretch. There's a lot of details on this that I'm really, frankly, not aware of how it works and fully understand. But I would say this is a type of 666. And of course, at the very beginning, the video I showed about the chip being inserted into the hand kind of plays into this same category. And then, of course, with COVID-19, there's been a lot of talk of vaccines being created. Well, one company called Promega, they have been researching this enzyme, and it's called a luciferase or luciferase. It's a type of enzyme that glows. It's a bioluminescent enzyme, meaning, when you see a jellyfish or a sea creature on the abyss of the ocean, or perhaps a dragonfly or a firefly, they have an enzyme in them that causes them to glow. You see the bioluminescent light. Well, this enzyme has been extracted and is being researched to be put in the new vaccine. And who knows? It's interesting. This is a naturally occurring thing found in nature, but why in the world did they name it luciferase? I'll show you all of these things. I'll go back through them one more time. The cryptocurrency 060606, the Monster Energy, the name of Allah, Apple Computer, Nero, all of these things, they have meaning to man, some kind of connection to man. And perhaps we could say these are types or antitypes or pre-types of whatever 666 is. The Bible is very clear. It's the number of a man. And maybe it's safe to say we haven't seen this number yet. We don't fully understand what this number means. But for the Christian, we are to remain faithful. We are to stay firm in the gospel of peace, the gospel of truth, the gospel of Jesus Christ, and to keep sharing the good news, to reject the Antichrist system, to reject the image of the beast, to refuse to bow down and worship the image, just like Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Hopefully you guys will read Revelation chapter 14 for next time. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye.